So, welcome everyone. This is the second in a two-part series on Menucha Nefesh and family life and marriage. Last week, those of you who weren't here, we discussed the issue of that each of us has a deeper self, and each of us has a neshama, and we did a meditation of how to feel that sense of sensitivity, and that recording will be available through Dr. Steiner. Anyone who wants to hear it. This week we're gonna take a more practical approach, and we're gonna try to understand a little bit what is this Menucha Nefesh, and how to achieve it and how to integrate it into marriage. So there's in this week's parsha, there's in the bracha that Yaakov gives to Yisachar, says Vayar Menucha Kitov. Menucha, who's Yisachar? Why does it come to Yisachar? Why is the bracha come to Yisachar? So Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz, who we discussed last week, and who was the Mashgiach of Mir, has a beautiful piece on why the bracha of Menucha comes to Yisachar, and why it's so important in marriage. Because you know that we have the partnership of Yisachar and Zvulun. So Yisachar, what does Yisachar do? Yisachar is Yoshe Be'oel. He sits and learns. Zvulun is on the high seas. He's a merchant. He's a salesman. He's an entrepreneur. It's Yisachar. So the menucha that Yaakov gives as a bracha to Yisachar. What is this menucha? So Rabbi Yerucham says that don't think for a moment that the menucha that he's benching him with is a menucha of the guf. It's not a menucha of the guf at all. It's not a menucha of creature comforts. He's saying that to be a ben Torah, a person has to have a constancy, an equilibrium, a sense of stability in life that goes through all of life's challenges, all of life's nisyonos. And the focus of menucha is not the menucha of the guf, because menucha of the guf, of the body, trying to feed it comfort is like trying to slake a thirst with salt water. It's never satisfied. There's never enough comfort. On the contrary, he says that the menucha is almost like a soldier, and the soldier has menucha because he trains for. He's battle ready. His menucha is not in the sense that he's at ease. On the contrary, he's very much charged. He's charged, and he has gone through all kinds of incredibly difficult exercises to prepare himself for any battle situation. And that's the menucha. The menucha is to be able to go into the battle situation, and for the motherland, right? And nothing is going to stop him from performing his duty. And that's the sense of menucha that he's talking about. Now we know we also know that on Shabbos we deal with the menucha of menucha se'emes ve'emuna, and Ava Nadava Shom Shalva Hashka Betach. Those, yes, very much so, and they play into this. They are the essence of the menucha experience. But the menucha that we talk about today in marriage incorporates these, but goes even farther. So the essence that we're saying is that in life, each of us is on a journey, and the journey has a destination, and that regardless of what we're going through in life, menucha means being able to maintain that focus, that rikuz on our goal. There's a mashal that I once heard that I like very much. It's that someone has won a lottery ticket, $10 million, and he has to be in California tonight, tomorrow, whatever, to collect the lottery award. So he goes to the airport and he tries to get on a plane. And everyone he asks says, sorry, I can't, I got to be in California, I got this, I got that. I'm sorry, I have no ticket to give you. You can't take my seat. And he goes all over it, no matter what he does, no matter how he tries to pay people off, he cannot get on the planes to California. So they see how desperate he is. And they finally come to him and they say to him from the airline, they say, listen, we know you're trying to get there, we know how desperate you are to get there. We have no regular seats. There is one seat only. There is only one seat. And but that seat was used for pets, right? It says Fido on top of it. You can, it's on the floor, and people are going to pass you, and they're going to look at the says Fido, and they'll be sitting there, you look like a fool. If you want, you can take that seat. So he says, okay, you know something? Doesn't make a difference. I'm going to sit in that seat because I'm holding on to this ticket. And I can see anyway, I'm holding on to this ticket. Menucha is the ability to go through life holding on to that ticket and knowing a destination. I want to share a story that I heard. Some of you heard I heard last night. So I just incorporated this into this presentation because I had a lot of it finished before. I heard it. Was anyone at the main group last week? So the main group is, as you know, is by Mrs. Martin, a wonderful organization, a group, and Rabbi Dr. David Gottlieb from Or Sameach was there, and he gave a story. And so the question is, what is this destination that we're talking about? So he gave a story that touched me very deeply, and when you hear it, you'll understand the destination. The story is that his daughter either met a woman or knew a woman, but knew the story firsthand. She came across a woman who was now probably in her 80s, and she was talking about her life. She had been through the Holocaust, and she had come to Eretz Yisrael, because Rabbi Gottlieb lives in Eretz Yisrael. He's part of Or Sameach. And this woman was telling this young woman her life story. So she said that when she came from the Holocaust, she had no family. She was all alone. In Europe, she had been a pianist, or she had been very cultured and very well read, and she knew poetry and she knew music, and she was really a very, very fine breeding. But there was no one, and the family was very frum, and she had an education, frum education, a secular education, everything. When she came, she had no one to marry. They found this man who was not very educated. He had good midos, but he didn't know very much else, and he wasn't learned. And whoever was a shadchan, suggested this young man to this woman. At first, she was very much didn't know how she would possibly ever live with such a man, but he was a man who was a fine person. So she agreed to marry him, even though he had very little education, secular education, Jewish education. And they married. So they lived in Eretz Yisrael. They lived in Shlab, I believe. And she told the Rav, she said to the Rav, that it was close to their house. She said, I want you to take him, and I want you to learn with him every day. What can you learn? He doesn't know anything. Learn Ein Yaakov. Ein Yaakov is something that people who says about it. It's Haggadahs in the Gemara. It's not difficult to learn. Yaakov doesn't require any great abstract thinking. The stories of the Gemara. So the Rav agreed to learn Ein Yaakov with him. I think this was the Rav who was a shadchan. Then she said to the Rav, but I want you to take him now, and I want you to make him the gabbai of the shul. He'll have something to do. Make him the gabbai. Let him clean. Let him prepare for Shabbos. Let him do whatever has to be done for the shul. Make him the gabbai. He works, but at least it has something to do for the tzibur. So the Rav agreed. Okay, if that's what you want, I'm the shadchan here, I guess. I think that's how the story went. I'll make him the gabbai. So he makes him the gabbai. So he gets ready for Shabbos and everything else necessary. Then this woman begins a gemach, a food gemach, and it grows, and it gets too heavy for the schlep every Shabbos food. So she asks Rabbi, she says, "I need your help me with my gemach." So he begins to help her, and the gemach grows. But over the years past, the gemach is very big now, and not like today. I'm sure there's a budget of $1 million, but they had and he had died about 10 years ago. By the time he had died, the gemach had grown, and he had been learning many years, and he had. So she said, this older woman said to this young girl, she said, "I want to tell you something." She says, "One thing I'm sure about. When I get to the Kisei HaKavod, they're going to treat me with a lot of respect. Because I helped this man who didn't know how to learn, who didn't have any experience in the public world, become a gabbai, became a gabbai over the gemach." She said, "I want you to know that I'm proud of everything I did." And so when I get to the Kisei HaKavod, I'm expecting a fine reception, she said. Beautiful story. So what is this? We're on a journey in life. So what is the goal? If we're going to California to get the lottery, what's the lottery that we're winning? So the lottery that we're talking about is that we know that we said the Gemara says 40 days. Latest before there's a baskol that goes out. It's a ploni laploni. That this shama is going to marry this shama. So what is this about? This shidduch and shemayim? Why two neshamas who don't even know each other? Because the goal that we're talking about, is that everyone is on a journey, and the journey terminates at the Kisei HaKavod. The journey terminates at Achros HaYomim, when a person stands in front of the Rebbe Shalom, and that we had to arrive there, having achieved something with our lives, something extraordinary with our lives that took a whole lifetime to achieve, and that so the two neshamas that are brought together at the latest of Vlad, the Rebbe Shalom is saying, "I'm mishadach you together because it's my understanding that your two neshamas can help each other achieve that goal. That which you could never have achieved individually, you have a tafkid to help each other achieve, and a lifetime together will help you become refined and sensitive and caring, and develop the midos that you have to achieve for one purpose. And the purpose is to that when you come home for the nitzchias that awaits for you, that you will spend a lifetime together, and to achieve that. It's like a parent telling two children, you have to go on a journey, and I have to meet you someplace. I can't go with you for reasons that I can't tell you, but I'm going to meet you there. But I want you to help each other get there, because each of you has specific strengths, and each of you has weaknesses. And each of you, if you help each other, you can get there. No one would dare show up at the end of the journey and say, "I made it, but I'm alone," right? The Rebbe Shalom is the parent who brings us together because he wants us to achieve that goal together. That's what the Rebbe Shalom wants, and that's why we are together. And that's the lifetime. That's the life journey that we're talking about. So, but there's a challenge that we face. There's a challenge. The challenge is that we're all very human, and we all come into marriage after the nisyonos of our childhood, after 20, 30 years of being raised and having experienced positive experiences and negative experiences, and patterns of thinking and of feeling and perceptions of our needs, and that when we're brought together in marriage, no matter what our kavanas are, no matter how much we want to help each other, we're always struck by the ever-changing moods and swings of our thoughts and our feelings. That we want to be close, we want to be loving, we want to be caring, we want to be consistent. But things happen, things get in the way. It could be work, it could be family, it could be our physiological changes, it could be financial changes, it could be many countless things that are going on, and therefore in marriage, which is this crucible where we're put together 24/7 to live together, and we become on one hand closest to each other, but also we become so intensely aware of our feelings towards each other. So marriage becomes a place where we have a cacophony of different emotions going on all the time. So on the other hand, okay, I understand we want to get to the Kisei HaKavod together, but there are so many things going on. And how do I, within myself, I come home, I feel tension in the house. Sometimes something is said in a certain way, and I don't know how to react to it. So we don't know what to do with our thoughts and feelings, and frequently what happens is that these thoughts and feelings, which are constantly ebbing, kind of ups and down and zigging and zagging in all different ways, we're overwhelmed. We don't know how to control them, but sometimes we even justify them. We hold on to hurts, we hold on to wounds, we hold on to all kinds of things that in our minds. Sometimes we feel upset. We feel upset for hours, sometimes days, sometimes weeks. We don't know what to do. And we say, well, I can't help it. I have a mashal that I developed that I like very much about what Menucha Nefesh really is. Menucha Nefesh really is learning how to quiet down these thoughts and emotions, how to quiet down the physiological changes that go on in our minds, so that, because that's what Hashem wants us to do, particularly with each other, particularly because that's the essence of Shalom Bayis. I mentioned last week, I'll mention it again for those of you who weren't here, that there's a mashal that I like to give about a tightrope, that marriage is like a tightrope in the circus. That on the circus you have two high wire artists on both ends of the wire, and they're standing still, and then they start to move together when the drums start to roll. And we spoke about last week about how no one stands still on the high wire. High wire requires an enormous amount of micro movements to keep yourself balanced. And then when you're balanced, when you start moving together on the high wire, then how you learn to balance each other. And that marriage is that symphony of your internal balance and how you're balancing each other. That's what marriage is. And so the mashal I like to give is let's say I have a friend, and I say, you're my very close friend. I want to give you a present. I want to give you a brand new Lexus. A big black Lexus. Sometimes you see these cars parked over here in the Whitechapel parking lot, right? Big, beautiful car, and it's filled with all kinds of gadgetry, the technological wizardry, and fine leathers and mahogany trim and everything you can possibly imagine in the car. Fortunate car, beautiful car. And I park this car, this black beauty, outside your house. And then so I come back a couple of weeks later, and I see it's snowing, and the car is covered with soot and snow, and dirty snow and ice and everything. I look inside, and I see inside the car itself, I see this trash, right? Bags of trash. So I said, how come the car looks so dirty, and how come the car has so much trash inside? What? So my friend says, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do it. I know it's just a waste of car, but you see, it's been snowing, there hasn't been a garbage pickup in a long time, and they didn't know what to do with the bags, so I put the bags in the car and didn't have a chance to go out into the streets. I said, a Lexus is such an expensive car. It's such all this gadgetry and this is beauty of and the luxury of the supple leathers and the mahogany trim and everything else. I said, you can't put trash in there. It's not. It just decays. It just ruins everything. So the nimshal is that Hashem gives us the most complicated, beautiful structure of the universe, the human mind. Right? The human mind is the Lexus of the Rolls Royce, the Lexus, whatever you call it. Hundreds of, here's Dr. Steiner will tell us how many, no one knows how many hundreds of billions of cells are in the mind. Nobody knows.
At least 4.
How much?
Into his mind.
Into his mind. And Hashem said, I'm giving you the most incredible structure in the entire universe, which is your mind. And I want you to use that structure. I want to use that mind for one purpose, so I can greet you at the Kisei HaKavod. That's what I want you to do. That's what you're supposed to do with it. And the way, but in order to do that, you have to achieve Menuchas and Nefesh. So, how you have to keep the mind free of all these thoughts and all these fears and anxieties and resentments and all of the things that populate your mind. Right? That's how we stay balanced on the high wire. That's really what we're talking about when we're talking about Menucha and Nefesh marriage. That's what we're talking about. Shalom Bayis, understand, Shalom Bayis is not an external phenomenon. Shalom Bayis is a reflection, as an expression of the Shalom within two people, right, who have achieved an inner Shalom. And as they achieve this inner Shalom, it's apparent to those around them. That's what Shalom Bayis is. It's not an external, It's learning how to be balanced. So Menucha and Nefesh is learning how to create or cultivate a state of mind, and in cultivating that state of mind, how to build that state of mind into how to weave it into a marriage and into a family life. Now, a lot of people say, though, but I've been through so much, and my husband and my wife, this and all kinds of different reasons, all of which so legitimate. I don't know how I can do it, and we've been having a difficult time all these years, and we've been to. Somebody called me today. He said he's married like 15 years. About 8 of those years been in therapy. Never. How much suffering can you take to be in therapy all those years? So can you help? Is there a way to help? No one can help us anymore. So there's a mashal I heard from Avigdor Zatzal, which is really at the heart of everything I teach, and I also saw the same mashal in the Sefer Cheshbon. I forgot the Sefer. I forgot the name. I'll think of a moment. But it's a mashal It's a mashal that is for people who feel that their situation is beyond repair, hopeless. And a lot of people do. A lot of people feel that I've been through so much in life, I can't really change anything. I don't know what to do. I'm been to the therapist, and I take this, and I've been my mother, my father, my this, my husband, my wife. So the mashal is that there's a zoologist, a scientist, and this scientist is studying the relationship between a snake and the bird. What's the snake and what's the bird? That in the rainforest jungle there's a snake, and this snake is a predator to a bird. A nice, cute little bird sits up in a tree. The question always was, how does a snake get to the bird? The snake's on the ground, the bird's in in the top of a tree in the rainforest jungle. But how do you get to the bird? Fine, I understand that once you get to the bird, you eat the bird, but how do you get to the bird? So this zoologist takes it upon himself to find the answer to this riddle. And he follows this, he looks for the snake, he looks for the bird, he goes to the jungle, and day after day, I don't know how long, and I'm sure in the heat of the summer, in the cold of the winter, wherever it is. So finally, one day he sees the snake stop dead in his tracks, and the snake looks up into the tree and starts to do this incredibly, wild gyration of changing colors and sticking its fang out and all kinds of attention drawing gestures. And sure enough, at the top of the tree, he sees the bird. Oh, now he's in luck. There's the bird, and the bird is singing along. The bird is singing along innocently to the beauty of the sounds of the rainforest. And after a while, the bird catches the snake through the corner of its eye. And as it catches the snake through the corner of its eye, it begins to stare at the snake. It stares at the snake, and after a while, it's staring at the snake so intensely that it stops singing. And then it stops singing, and then it stops moving. And then it stops moving, and soon it starts to shake. And it starts to shake and shiver, and after a while the bird plops lifelessly out of the tree into the loving open jaws of the snake. Baruch haba. So if I were a friend of the bird, and I knew bird talk, I would say, hey bird, you got wings. Flap your wings and fly. Do your thing. Like the old boxing movies where the guy is down to the count of 10, right? So he sees his mother in the crowd and gets up, whatever. But the reality is, no matter how much you scream at the bird, tell the bird he has wings, he's not going to move. He's not going to have the wings. Why? Very simple. Because the Rebbe Shalom created the world of nature, and in the world of nature, the bird is food for the snake. Magila food. This is it. And at that moment, once the bird spots the snake, and it is entranced and mesmerized by the snake, he no longer has wings. They're there physically, but he no longer has any use for them. They no longer exist for him. It's as if someone had tied a cord around his wings and he cannot move. Why do we tell the story? Because, as Rav Miller and others explain, we are never the bird. Am Yisrael is not the world of nature. In the world of nature, the bird doesn't have wings. But the Tzelem Elokim always has wings. That the Rebbe Shalom never ever takes away our Bechira. Never takes away our Bechira. So the way we think and the way we feel and the way we act, even though there are patterns that have developed over the years, so I may fall into feelings of sadness, or I may get nervous, or I may get upset. I had a husband came to me last week and told me his wife said he's been married for 20 years. He's been angry all these years. He was raised with a family that was angry, and his father's angry, just like his father. He's angry, and he's went to therapy all these years, and he can't stop the anger. And when he left the office, he was almost crying. He said, "I never felt it. I never felt hopeful before all these years. I always felt guilty, but I never felt hopeful." Because what we're teaching, the Menuchas HaNefesh, means that the Rebbe Shalom says you're not the bird, you're never the bird, you're never without your wings. HaGosh gives you wings, he gives you the kochos to be yourself, to be your neshama, and that's never limited. Because once we're limited, there's no schar ba'onish. Who can blame me if I'm limited? How can I have How could I earn Holam Haba? And how can I be chayiv for chas v'shalom onish in the Shemayim if I had no choice? If I'm the bird, I'm never the bird. The whole part, the whole sipur of Mitzrayim that we're going to be talking about is leaving Mitzrayim. So the Sfas Emes says the Mitzrayim that we leave is not only Mitzrayim, the physical Mitzrayim. We leave the Mitzrayim of the shibud that we becomes meshubed, that we become all the hergelim and all the patterns and all the rituals and all the addictions of our lives that we don't feel we have a choice in matter. All of this is in Yiddishkeit does not exist because we're never the bird. So what we're learning is that in Shalom Bayis, there are patterns of the past. There are things that we've learned, but we can always we always have the opportunity to unlearn them. That at every moment the Rebbeinu Shalom gives us bechira, the ability to choose freely. Rav Hutner Zatzal said that the Amalek of this door, beautiful concept. He said the Amalek of this door is the idea that we lost our bechira. Understand this? Rav Hutner. And so much of society is filled with this concept of I had no choice, I had to do it. Right? The Hefech Yid always has the ability to express its Tzelem Elokim, to live in that Tzelem Elokim. Now, so I want to teach now with some of these concepts that we're talking about. I want to teach a few what called truths about marriage and relationship, and then I want to go into a couple of practical tools I want to teach you. So the first is that the first truth I want to say goes against everything that we learned in modern psychology. In Yiddishkeit, conflict is never productive. Rav Scheinberg said he was married 80 years, he never had a fight with his wife. 80 years. Conflict is never productive. Every conflict can be contained. It may take a lifetime learning how to do it, but it's doable. I tell people, come to see me. If you ever walk out of my office angry or at each other when you walked in, then don't ever come to see me again. I can't help you. You can only walk out of here. My role is to help you walk out of here closer than when you walked in, not further apart. People, Hashem creates us to feel, we need to feel close to each other. We're on that journey together. We need to be partners. There's a story that I like to tell that I heard. I heard two versions of the story about Reb Moshe Zatzal. I believe I heard it many years ago from Rabbi Melech Bluth. I also heard a similar story from Rabbi Per, who heard it from somebody, but I think Rabbi Bluth was there at the time. I want to tell you the story about conflict. Maybe the two stories are separate, maybe they're the same, different versions. I don't remember. All these stories seem to merge. So the way the story goes is Rabbi Moshe Zatzal had come home from a long day, I guess fundraising and learning in the yeshiva and give shiurim, and he was older. And the Rebbetzin told the bacher who had taken him home, if anyone calls, don't give the phone to the Rosh Yeshiva. Take the call. He's tired, doesn't have the kochos. Let him eat his dinner. So, of course, the bacher hears the But the Rebbetzin says he has to agree. So the Rosh Yeshiva sits down to eat, and he starts to eat, and sure enough, the phone rings. It's Mrs. Katz. Mrs. Katz has a Shalom Bayis problem. Rosh Yeshiva knew that Mrs. Katz had a Shalom Bayis problem, and obviously had committed himself to speak to her. So he tells the Bacher, he says, please give me the phone. In Yiddish, obviously. Give me the phone. So the Bacher can't go against the Rosh Yeshiva, even though he gave his word to the Rebbetzin. So he gives him the phone, and he speaks to Mrs. Katz for 5 or 10 minutes, whatever it is. And the Rebbetzin, we see, is not very happy. But obviously she's respectful. She cares for the Rosh Yeshiva very much. But, she wants to protect his health, his well-being. He's tired. A long day. Gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And so after the Rebbetzin leaves and he hangs up the phone, the Bacher says to Rosh Yeshiva, he says, Rosh Yeshiva, please, I don't mean to be a mechutzef, but it seems to me that the Rosh Yeshiva was helping a woman with a Shalom Bayis problem, but it seems there was a Shalom Bayis problem being created here. So the Rosh Yeshiva said, he says, no, he says, there are two people who are upset. Here there was only one. What's so extraordinary about the story, I heard this from Rabbi Bluth many years ago, is that conflict is a dynamic that takes hold when two people, in a sense, lose themselves and trigger each other. One triggers the other, and as it begins with one thought, one word, and it triggers off something in the other, it quickly goes back to the other, and before you know it, in a flash, we see Erev Shabbos so frequently when people are trying to get ready to get the candles lit, and that's what Chazal says. That's the most vulnerable time for Shalom Bayis, right? It's all Hashem Shemayim. But it can never happen if there's only one person who is feeling upset. How do we keep ourselves? We'll talk about that a little bit. Certainly, last week we spoke about centering. That's certainly. But we'll talk about other ways of handling it today. So the first thing I want to say is that anytime you hear a psychologist or anybody dealing with Shalom Bayis saying that conflict is good, don't believe them. It's a lie. Has no place. It's true that from conflict people can make shalom. It's possible, but only if the conflict became a stepping stone to shalom. But to accept conflict as the way one accepts the rhythms of the ocean, that's not true. That's not true. But to say that we're helpless, conflict is an ongoing rhythm of life, that's giving up. That's a kind of believing in another kind of deity. Hashem doesn't. Hashem. We say every day, Osa Shalom B'Mroma. How many times we say Shalom every day? How many times we say Ava every day? I think Ava and Shalom. The word Ava. If you do a cursory counting of the word Ava in davening alone, you'll find that you say the word Ava in the morning alone almost 30 times. Shachris alone more than 30 times. Which means that in a course of a month you've said it 900 times. That means that in the course of a year you've said it 10, 12,000 times minimum. 10 years, 120, 20 years, 250,000 times you said the word Ava. No one can tell me that conflict has a value. Conflict against the Yetzer, conflict against a Molech, conflict against Ishmael, conflict against Esau, but not internally. it happens and how do we handle it, that's something else that we'll discuss a little bit later. That's the first thing. Don't believe it. The second thing I wanted to say is that you have to place your partner's feelings on a pedestal. You have to place your partner's feelings on a pedestal. I want to tell you a story. I wrote about it in the book. I heard this story probably about 15 years ago. It was this very week I heard about 15. Why do I know? Because it was Parshas Vayechi. And Parshas Vayechi, which is the end of, or it could have been between Vayigash and Vayechi, or after, or I don't remember exactly, was it before Vayechi or afterwards? But Rav Shach Zatzal had a Talmud Muvak, I forgot his name, and he was on his way to Kennedy Airport. And so Meir of an issue of Harakwe was 8:30. And here this Odom Choshev Ma'od davens Meir with the yeshiva, 8:30 minyan. So after Meir, some people knew who he was. I didn't know who he was, but some people knew who he was. So we had about another hour before he had to go to the airport. So they said to him, Hefshim Ken Zoganepis, wegen der Rosh Hashiva, Shach's Talmud Muvak. So he said, so he agreed. He had a few minutes, and we all sat down. Well, really, a moment crystal clear in my mind. We all sat down. He told the following story. He says, Bereshis, Chumash Bereshis is coming to an end. Parshas Vayechi. And what's Bereshis? Bereshis is a book of Chesed. Chesed of Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov. A book of Chesed. He says, what's Chesed? He said the Rosh Hashiva was a man of Chesed. He said, where did he learn Chesed from? He said the Rosh Hashiva learned Chesed when he was a young boy. He learned Chesed when he was in the house of his Rosh Hashiva, Baruch Moshe Mordechai Epstein Zatzal, his Rosh Hashiva. And I didn't know I only found out later it was him. So he said, what did he see? What's the chesed that he saw? So he said that the Rosh Hashiva then, the Moshe Mordechai Epstein Zatzal, was getting old, and the Rosh Hashiva Rav Shach, the young Rav Shach, the Rosh Hashiva invited him for a Shabbos Suda. And Shabbos Suda, and they're talking learning. The food wasn't like today, it wasn't 10 salads and everything else. So it was Pasha. There was an old couple. Part of the kids were away, out of the house, married, and young Rav Shach was sitting with his Rosh Hashiva and talking in Torah, and the Rebbetzins bringing out food. The food is very bland, but he understands the food's bland. So what can you do? But okay, it's worth it. He said, finish the meal, and the Rebbetzin asked, "Efshe wilt a bissel kompot," means stewed fruits. Kompot. So Rav Shach said, "Oh, maybe it'll be something with taste now." Oh, couldn't wait. Oh, sure. What can you do with stewed fruits? So she brings out the stewed fruits, plums, flimies they call them. Put it down. And the Rebbetzin puts it in front of him and from his Rosh Hashiva. He starts to eat, and he can't hold it in his mouth. He has never tasted anything like it in his life. There's no way he can eat it. So Moshe Mordechai Epstein, the Rebbetzin leaves. He says, I understand that it's not what you're used to tasting. He says, give it to me. He says, the Rebbetzin thinks it's good. I've been eating it this way for 50 years. Every Shabbos. He says, that was chesed. Today today we would vilify this person. We would say, how dare you fool this person? The foodies of the world would kill him. But that's not the case, because Moshe Mordechai Epstein and his wife and his Eshes Chayil built a life of Torah and Chesed together. They were partners, right? And he knew that she liked it this way. And for 50 years he ate it this way and never said a word. And obviously it never got better. He said that was what Rav Shach's Talmud Muvak gave as an example of Chesed, which was at the level of the Avos. So that's the second truth, that you place your partner's feelings on a pedestal. Your needs are never, ever as important as your partner's feelings. Okay. The third is something that I saw, very kind of cute but memorable moment, is that you have to, whatever you want to tell your partner, right? If we go back to the mashal of the tightrope. So, if you're balanced, right, and your partner is a little bit unbalanced, you don't say, "Hey, get balanced," because it's going to scare them. You don't hit them with a stick. You say gently, "Be good." Maybe you'll bend your knees, take it easy, straighten your shoulders. Right? You got to get them. You used your balance to help them regain their balance. So the third truth is that whatever message you want to give, you have to say it in a positive way. You can never say it in a negative way. So I want to give you a story that I found very, very kind of interesting and amusing. There was a couple that I was working with. And they were kind of both Bali Tshuva, not completely Bali Tshuva, but they kind of came from shaky backgrounds and they became a lot from. He went off the derech a little bit, and she kind of stayed. And eventually he came around, and he became more from than she was. And he was more makbid on Taras and Mishpacha, and he was more makbid on Shabbos, and sometimes he would be a little bit tough on her, and it's not. And he was learning Mishnah Berurah, and he wanted. So the friction brought them to see me. So I was trying to help them. So I was trying to help him understand that anything he wants, listen, I said, you understand that you are out in the field, you're already going to jump off the cliff, you were going out someplace. It was your wife that really stabilized you. She held on to whatever little she had. You would have gone completely, you would have lost your shot altogether had she not been had she not been steady and there for you. So he began to understand that and began to loosen up a little bit. Comes in one week, he says, I have to give myself a pat in the back. So what happened? He said that they have every Shabbos, he tries to tell her this Mishnah Berurah, this Halachah Shabbos, and she always says, "Get out of my face, get out of my kitchen, don't be my mashgiach, right? Don't be my mashgiach." So I try and I work very hard, but sometimes it really gets to me because I'm not too sure and I don't know, and this with the bugs in the water and tochein and schita and all the other halachas, and she didn't hear the kashrus. She doesn't. It just drives me crazy. She said, "We're sending shalosh shudas," and she served guacamole. And I happen to love guacamole. She makes it very delicious. It's one of my favorite salads. It's avocado, whatever, and onion, and she said, but if she made it like she made it in the past, she mashed it, and mashing a food has a halachic problem of tochen. And on the one hand, I wanted to eat it. I like it. I love that food. And on the other hand, I felt, even if I decide not to eat it, how can I let it happen? So I was about to say something, and I decided I'm not going to. I'm not going to say a word. I'm going to, if I have nothing positive to say, you have if I was saying if you have nothing positive to say, don't say it. I decided I'm not going to say it. If the Eibishter wants me to say something, he'll put something into my mind. And we'll discuss this later. So he didn't say anything. A couple of minutes later, he had an Einfall. He decided he's going to say it in a positive way. What's the positive way? He said to her, how was your shiur today? Because she had gone to a shiur. She said, oh, it was a wonderful shiur. So what was the shiur that you went to? And she described the shiur she went to for women. Oh, very nice. She said, did you go to a shiur today? He said, yeah, I went to a shiur. I went to a shiur. And I learned an interesting halacha. What's the interesting halacha? And he made an interesting cheshbon. Because it had to be positive. It couldn't be negative. It couldn't be what tochen is. It had to be what tochen was not. I learned that in tochen, you're allowed to mash an egg, he said. He said, you're allowed to mash an egg. She said, you're allowed to mash an egg? She said, I thought you couldn't mash food. He said, yes, but an egg does not grow from the ground. Right? You're allowed to mash something that doesn't grow from the ground. Something that grows from the ground, you can't. She said, I never know. Thank you for telling me. She said, and she said, and don't worry, the guacamole I mashed it with the edge of with the back of a spoon. He told me he wanted to cry. Right? He said he never enjoyed guacamole so much in his life. Right? He was able to take a potential conflict. Right? He had two choices up until then. He had two choices: not to eat it, and to feel that she was Mechala Shabbos in some form, whatever, or to say something and to have her blow up and to destroy any Menucha of Shabbos. He did neither. He wasn't going to do anything until he had something positive to say. And he framed it in a positive way. So I want to teach you a few concepts about how one changes, how one does not become the bird. How do we remember that Hashem gives us wings, that we have bechira? I want to go over these fairly quickly. I don't have that much time, but I want to kind of lay out a lot of this is in the books on marriage and the new book on life. A couple of copies in the car if anybody's interested. But let me just give you kind of run through these concepts. I think that we can do them justice in a few minutes, just as an introduction to the concepts. The first is the concept of the three principles. Now, the three principles, when we have a thought, I'm stuck at the Shabbos table, and and I have two choices. I have no other choices. Either I can say something and stick it to her, or say nothing and stew and not eat the guacamole, right? Or the choice is she's angry at me and I'm on the phone and I can say, what right do you have to be angry at me? This is what I have to do to help people and I want you to stop being angry at me, right? That's what's my obvious choice. Right? But those are not the choices, really. We have other choices. Our Rosh Hashanah has endless choices that we can choose from. But the first thing is that we have to know that no matter what the situation is, that we're not stuck in that situation. We're not stuck in that situation. Why are we not stuck? Why are we not the bird? Very simple concept. we say every day in davening, we say Hamachadish v'tuva b'chol yom tov b'ma'aseh bereshis. What does that mean? That Hashem is Machadish the Ma'aseh bereshis. Doesn't mean that every morning at 9 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whenever we get up, he flips the switch and we light up like a candle. No. Chazal says that every moment, Kol Neshima v'Neshima, Rabban Shem gives us life. We live from one moment to the next because he renews life at every moment. That's Chazal. I mean the Shem Shmuel says what was that we learned about Makas Bechoros. What was Makas Bechoros? He says that when the Neshama left Mitzrayim, he didn't send it back. And that was the Makas Bechoros was the Neshama was always leaving. It's always leaving. He's always going home. You know, the movie E.T. Go Home, right? The Neshama is always going home. Hashem sends it back. I mean, new Neshama. Makas Bechoros, the Shem Shmuel says that it left. Hashem didn't take it back. He just let it go. That every moment Hashem is Mechadash us. So if Hashem is Mechadash us every moment, I'm never mishubed. I'm never stuck in that thought. I'm never stuck in that feeling. I'm a new bri every moment. It goes against everything that modern psychology tells us, but it's true. I'm a new person every moment. I don't have to. I'm not compelled to do anything. Obviously, there are some things we see in today's world, particularly with substance addictions and stuff like that, which create a different kind of reality, which is not for now. But in terms of my freedom as a person, so we call that concept chiddush, machadish. Now, when it comes, what does that mean? It means that if I have a thought, let's say I'm upset, or I'm angry at my wife, or she chas v'shalom, she's angry at me, whatever the case may be. So it takes me a good few hours to settle down, right? It's not true. It's not true at all. Because from one moment to the next, you're another person. You have to remember that while we are having thoughts and feelings that are racing through our minds, that thought and that feeling that we see is not the only thought and feeling in our bodies, in our minds. The mind is like a fiber optic cable, a multitude of different layers and levels of thoughts and feelings that are going through all the time. We have to be focused on one and stuck on that one. Doesn't mean that that's who we are. We're not our thoughts, we're not our feelings. Chidush means I'm aware that Hashem is mechadish me at every moment, and I don't know what the right thought or feeling is. I don't know what I'm going to tell my wife so I can find out what's the story about this guacamole. But I know that I'm not stuck in these two choices. If these two choices are negative, I'm not stuck in them. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that I'm not stuck in it. So that's the first principle. That's the first principle. There are three principles that I want to teach here. That's the first principle. To say, Hashem, you machadish me at every moment, and I'm not stuck. The second principle is, it's a beautiful principle. The second principle is Hashem, you put me here. You found me this wife. You put the guacamole on the table. You guided me in life to go in here, in and out, up and down. We brought us together. I went this way, she went this way. I learned this halacha, she learned. You created this situation. You know my social security number, you know everything about me, you know my parents, you know where I came from. You put me here. So on a certain level, I have no choice. I have to be here. So what's my bechira? There was only one thing we have bechira in. The only thing Bechira, that we have one thing Bechira. The Bechira is our ability to say, you put me here, and I'm putting myself in your loving hands. You put me here, and I'm achniya myself to your Bashal. I'm placing myself in your loving hands. You put me here because you love me, and I am makabel that. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that you want me to believe that there's a reason for this moment. Why this guacamole is sitting in front of me on right? Why the I think with that, I think it's perhaps a good time now to stop.